No more celebration.
Nope, I'm celebrating that. We are good, we are good.
Good, good. How are you? All right. Your call.
All right, seeing as it's 5:30, we'll call the Tuesday, November 7th Business Operations and Finance Committee meeting to order. Ms. Schopp, could I please have a roll call?
Yes. Tia Johnson,
Here.
Brian Nichols,
Here.
and Brian Anderson.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. We have our agenda that was passed out. I would look for anyone to have any changes, modifications, and if not, a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Board Member Nichols, seconded by Board Member Johnson. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? That carries. We have the minutes previously handed out. Any additions, subtractions, deletions, commentary? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
All right. That is moved by Board Member Johnson, seconded by Board Member Nichols. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, and opposed? None, that passes. On to item 2A, September 23 monthly financials. And Mr. Chady, if you want to walk us through that, that'd be fantastic.
Good evening, thank you. So we'll go through the financial activity for the month of September 2023. The first look tonight will be our revenue analysis for the operating funds without any grant activity, as displayed on the screen. Let's see if I can make that a little bit bigger. Too big. We'll go back. Okay. So taking a look on the left-hand side, we'll speak to revenue from local sources. You can see fiscal year to date activity in the 23-24 school year, just over $206,000 as compared to $97,000 in the 22-23 school year, an increase of just under $109,000. And that's really driven for the most part by higher investment earnings that we're receiving on our assets that are on deposit. We made a change with our financial institution probably 3 months ago that increased our yields. So thus we're seeing some higher interest earnings along the way. Continuing down the left-hand side, we'll next speak to the revenue from state sources. Just over $10,100,000 received in 23-24 fiscal year to date as compared to just over $10,100,000, a difference of just over $5,100 less. September is the first month that we receive September is the month that we receive our first equalization aid payment from the state in. So we receive a substantial amount in September, and then the rest of that payment is spread over, I believe, 3 other payments during the course of the school year, unfortunately with the largest being in the month of June. Kind of at the end of the school year when everything's said and done, but that's how it is. Revenue from federal sources, $57,000 and change in the 23-24 school year, $610,000 plus last year. And looking at this, so we did receive some one-time funds in the 22-23 school year, part of the governor's efforts to it was called, I think, a back-to-school aid grant. So that was received in the 22-23, did not carry forward into the 23-24 school year. Other financing sources, you'll see zero activity here in the current year as compared to $222,000 in revenues last year. That was with regards to some sale of some technology devices that came off lease last year. So unfortunately, that'll probably be something we'll continue to talk about as the months go on based upon our current reporting. And then finally, other revenues, $273,000 here in the 23-24 school year. $25,000 was received at a similar point in time in the 22-23 school year. And this is largely due to the receipt of an E-rate payment, which is a federal program that helps provide and subsidize some technology costs to school districts. And we'll talk about E-rate later in the agenda when TC Networks is before you as well. So just kind of put that in the back of your head also. Overall total revenues, 10.6 million here in the 23-24, just over $11 million last year. Looking percentage-wise, 11.43% of budget. 23-24 through the end of September, 11.76 through the same point in time, the end of the 22-23 school year, all fairly comparable. There is a decrease in revenues by the tune of $423,281.56 between the two reporting periods. Not really anything that I see to be concerned about. I'll pause and ask if there's any questions about the revenues before we continue on to the expenses.
Any questions from non-committee members? Okay, we're good.
All right. Let me page down here. And we'll talk through the expenses for our operating funds. That again, this does not take into consideration the grants. We'll take a look at those as we traditionally do here in the next couple of slides. So salary and fringe benefits, $7.5 million so far consumed in the 22-23 school year. In the 23-24 school year. Looking over to the 22-23 school year, you'll see that that's just over $9.5 million, so about $2 million in reductions in salary and fringe benefits, really due to a combination of factors. One, we did have some reduction in staffing, so if we have a reduction in staffing, we're not paying as much in salary and benefits for individuals. We also had some staff vacancies, and of course, if there's a position, we've budgeted for that position to be filled, but if we're unable to fill that, that does provide savings opportunity as well. And then there was also some health benefit cost savings here in the 23-24 school year also. So kind of really a combination of those three things that are impacting the reduction in salary and fringe benefits. When we look at purchase services, we have $1.9 million in expenses here in the current year as compared to over $3.6 million in expenses last year. And you're wondering why is we $1.7 million reduction there? Probably once I say it, you'll say, oh yeah, he told us that before. But we removed some of our HES custodial expenses out of the general fund and have transitioned that to the ESSER fund. It's an allowable expense. So we're using ESSER dollars to cover that expense while that grant is available to us. So that then provides that savings or the reduction in expenditures of $1.7 million that you see reflected there. Down a couple of more rows, capital objects, you'll see no activity in the 23-24 school year, $288,000 and change of activity in 22-23. So really, we have a reduction in spending of that same $288,000 and change, really just a timing impact of when prior year capital objects were purchased, and either those objects aren't in need for replacement, or there aren't similar devices that are needed yet. In fact, you'll see we did budget $197,000 for capital objects, but again, there's no spending in the current year yet. Debt retirement, very similar, almost $172,000 in expenses in debt. So in September of each year, we make our interest payments on our outstanding debts. Those debts being in Fund 38 are non-referendum approved debt, and Fund 39 are referendum approved debt. And then if you look over to 22-23, you can see that the interest payments last year were $430,000. So a reduction of about just over $262,000 in interest between the two reporting periods. Next, jumping down to the total expenses, $10.2 million through the end of September of '23 as compared to $14.5 million through the end of September in '22, just under a $4.3 million reduction. And again, you can look above and you can see purchase services and salary and fringe benefits make up the lion's share of that reduction in spending. So again, I'll take a pause there. If anybody has any questions with regards to the expense side before we start taking a look at grants.
Questions from committee members, non-committee members? I think we're good.
All righty. We'll page down two more times. So again, this page takes a look at our revenues specifically for our operating funds and the grants that we receive. Little activity here yet to show. In September of '23, we did receive a whopping $211.43 in revenue from state sources. As compared to last year, we had almost $143,000 in revenues received. So we are trailing by about that $142,000, $500,000. Don't fear, the money's there. We just got to get grant claims into the state, which we have started filing, and now we're just awaiting them to process those and then to pay those back to us. I'm fairly certain we'll start seeing revenues coming in on the grants here for the October reporting month when we get to that point in time next month. But again, I'll pause and ask if there's any questions.
Mr. Nichols.
Acronym. So what is AODA?
Alcohol and Other Drug Administration.
And IDEA?
That is essentially the formula grants for special ed, so the flow-through and the preschool grant. And Missy's not here. I honestly, I can't tell you what IDEA stands for.
Okay.
Dr. Garrison, Teresa, anybody?
It was a special education act that made sure that laws allow students with special needs to attend schools.
Okay.
And there's a lot of other things that go along with that act, but that's basically what the IDEA Act was.
Okay.
Sure, it's the Individuals with Disability Education Act, and pretty much
Oh,
it
okay.
provides
Okay.
services in that sector.
And last but not least, CLC.
Community Learning Center, so that's a grant that provides after-school programming
Right,
at
okay.
Aldrich, Fruzen, and Todd.
Correct.
Oh, I got them right. Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Yeah, apologies for the acronyms, and thank you for asking the question. Been there, done that, yeah.
Trying to get up there with the federal government, so.
Yeah. All right, we'll jump over then and take a look at the expense side of the equation for our grants. And you can see here, salaries and benefits through the end of September in the current year, just over $1,350,000 as compared to just under $1 million last year. So about $370,000, almost $371,000 in additional expenses. Great question to ask would be, well, why is that? And what we did have available to us this summer and will again in the summer of '24 is some ESSER funding to support our summer school operations. So basically all of summer of '23 payroll, staffing compensation was paid for through a summer school grant. And then we'll have that opportunity available again in summer of '24. So that explains that increase. Purchase services, nearly $1.5 million in expenses here in '23-24 as compared to just under $708,000 last year, a difference of about $776,000. And again, it ties back to our contracted custodial through HES, which we are charging to the grant as an allowable expense. So it's kind of a cost shift from our general fund operations to our grant-funded operations. The next couple of rows, non-capital objects, just over 11,000 this year, almost $259,000 last year, so a reduction in spending, 247,000 in change. And then I'll also just go on and speak to the capital objects, 55,000 plus here in the current year is compared to 164,000 last year for a $108,000 difference. Really, all of that is timing related more so than anything. Total expenses for grants through the end of September, $2,912,475.97. As compared to last year, $2,123,539.82 for a difference or an increase in expenses for the grants of just under $789,000. I'd go back to the 23-24 fiscal year to date column, that $2,912,475.97. So that's the money that's technically due to the school district. Once we get our grant claim submitted to the state, they go through their review and approval process and then pay that back to us. And that cycle, so to speak, can take anywhere from as little as, I would say, in some instances, 2 to 3 weeks when the DPI is on top of their game. And it could take perhaps up to like 10, maybe even 12 weeks sometimes, depending upon how many submissions are coming their way at once. So any questions about the expenses before we take a look at the big picture overall summary?
Any question? I've got just one question as it relates to the grants. So when we put the funds 10 and 27 side by side for the grants, expense and revenue, the budgeted revenues, 21 million, and the budgeted expenses, 15,600,000. So I thought the grants were basically a break-even proposition, right? The program's in place because we have grant funding to do it, or at some point it's possible that expenses could be higher because we said, hey, we want to spend this, even though we're only going to be granted this much money because it's a worthy expense. But I just don't see how you get to have a smaller budgeted expense than revenue because they're not going to pay you for something you don't spend on a grant program.
Yeah, no, that's a great observation, Mr. Anderson. When I look at that, that's puzzling to me as well, to be very honest with you, because they should tie out. Though at the same token, when I look at the 22-23 school year between revenues and expenses, they didn't tie out there either. Astute observation on your part, and I'll take that back and speak with Stephanie Elwood and Brooke Walker, the two individuals that kind of oversee the grants, and we'll investigate that for you.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that catch.
A possible thought there could be that there's a grant that's missing in that thought too. I know we, throughout the year, get grants, and sometimes, depending on when a grant is released and it gets to the office, I should say, depending on even when these reports are given, the monies aren't necessarily there yet. So as a possibility, that could be a thing too.
Yeah, and
I know we've had a couple grants that we've been approved for, even most recently that, of course, they're still coming in. And so I don't know if that's going to cover the 4 million or so, but
well,
just food for
money's
thought.
coming in, timing-wise would affect the year-to-date activity, but it shouldn't affect the budget.
right, so
You're correct. It should not affect the budget.
as we're discussing here this evening, I'm almost wondering that, and I'm thinking I'm perhaps on the right path, that we may have very well fully budgeted for our entire ESSER 3 funds to come in the 23-24 school year, but I'm not sure that our Skyward expenditures align with the DPI budgeted expenditures yet there, so that could explain the difference as well, but we'll certainly look into that and get something back to you.
Okay?
Yep.
Get it.
Appreciated. Just coming.
Any other questions? Are we going to move on to the summary? Okay.
All right, so just real quick, taking a look at the September 23 summary. September is one of the few months of the year. There's typically 4 months of the year that our revenues exceed our expenditures. And congratulations, September of '23 was one of them. September of '24 and '25 will be as well. It's just how it all works out. Taking a look at the top row, Fund 1027, our general fund, special education funds, revenues just over $2.25 million, expenses under $8 million. So we generated $2.3 million in additional revenues over expenses in September. Coming down a couple of rows, we'll talk about Fund 3839, our debt service. Revenues, $21,737, all interest earnings. Expenses, $999,573.50 related to debt service payments. And then really jumping down to the very bottom, total revenues and expenses, $10.3 million in revenues, just over $9 million expenses, $1,285,000 to the good in the month of September. And again, that's one of the 4 months of the year that our revenues actually outpace our expenses. A pause for any questions that committee members may have.
Mr. Nichols?
Yes, Mr. Chady. So I did this afternoon, and I looked at the expense and the revenue from the other 4 sheets. And shouldn't that equate to the numbers on this sheet? Shouldn't they balance?
Yes and no. So the other 4 sheets only report on Fund 10 and Fund 27. So it would be the top row in the summary.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate and say that the top row in the summary, let's just take revenue, for example. Fund 10 and 27, revenue $10,257,000 and some change. And the Fund 10 and 27 fiscal year-to-date activity revenue on the previous slides at $10,646,000. So still not a tie out with just Funds 10 and 27.
Right.
Yeah, I see that as well.
Only 400,000, just.
I also think we gotta remember that these funds are static as well, so some of it shouldn't line up to exact penny to penny, but I'm not sure if that's how all of the numbers fall into that category.
Yeah, another great observation. I'll take that back to our business office team. We'll take a look at it tomorrow or Thursday, try to communicate something back, just so the committee's aware I'm on vacation Friday and then all of next week, so it might be towards Thanksgiving that we connect back with you. Along those lines, internally within the business office, we are discussing perhaps better, more robust reporting to share with the committee going forward that I think would provide an additional level of detail. Wouldn't necessarily report on grants and no grants per se. So that might be something that perhaps in December or January, we present both to you and then kind of get your feedback as to, what you like, dislike, suggestions for going forward. So,
Perfect, that sounds good.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chady.
All right, any other comments, questions, concerns on the September financials? No? All right. Well, this is something that we would move for recommendation to the full board. I would entertain a motion if someone wants to make that.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's moved by Board Member Nichols, seconded by Board Member Johnson. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? All right, that passes. We'll go on to item 3A. Let's talk about our 15-passenger van.
Yeah, let's. So the school district owns a 15-passenger 2021 Ford Transit van. We're not supposed to. Is probably the best way to summarize that. So according to state and federal law, school districts are unable to own anything that accommodates 10 or more students. So a van that holds 11 or more passengers sold to a public school district would violate the federal law. Don't ask, I wasn't here, but somehow the district acquired a 15-passenger van back in 2021. The great news is that they bought it through the state purchasing contract, so the cost of the vehicle was $38,389. It's in really good conditions, got 14,000 miles approximately on it. Does have some minor body damage to a rear door. We don't really know what happened. In all being upfront, my brother works for Griffin Ford in Fort Atkinson, so I took it to him just to say, okay, what would it be if we were to try to sell that? He provided an appraisal through their dealership for $46,000. I put the same vehicle in Kelly Blue Book, and it comes back with a private sale closer to $50,000. So pretty good. We've owned the van for a couple of years. We put 14,000 miles on it. We have the opportunity to sell it for probably $8,000 to $10,000, maybe $12,000 more than we bought it for. So the recommendation is that we look to part ways with that van, get it out of our fleet so that we're no longer in violation of that. School Board Policy 691 does speak to the purchase, sale, and disposal of assets. We've read through that. It would be our intention to inquire with local nonprofit organizations and other similar charitable groups, i.e. churches, et cetera, to ascertain if there's any interest by those parties to acquire this 15-passenger van at an appropriate cost. If those efforts come up with no interest, then the options are really, my suggestion would be that we solicit at least 5 bids or appraisals from area auto dealerships who might be willing to purchase it directly. I think I'm not even sure that I would say board policy. Typically, when we go out to bid, we require at least 3, but I think 5 is appropriate in this instance. Or the other options, we could sell it at auction. Not sure that we would generate really what we would hope for at auction. So I think, my preference is that we find a local nonprofit or charitable institution that is in need of some transportation, and we can negotiate a purchase with them, perhaps in the mid-40s someplace, a little bit less than, what the one appraisal came in at, but higher than what the purchase price was. The only caveat I would add to all of this is we would like to replace that vehicle with either a 10 or an 8-passenger van. 10 passengers are extremely hard to find. The board members may recall that it was probably May, maybe even April, that I brought forward a proposal to purchase 2 10-passenger vehicles. We finally found those. I can't remember if that was October or September. But within the last probably 6 weeks or so, we acquired 2 used 10-passenger vans, but it took months to find them. 8-passenger vans are much more common and available. So it might be something, if we can locate an 8 or a 10-passenger at a dealership that perhaps might be willing to discuss a trade-in, that might be a route for us to go as well. But want to bring it to your attention because it is a valuable asset. You need to know about it. Any questions there?
Yeah, no. And so, I reviewed that board policy, and it doesn't look like you need anything from us, and that's why it's just on the information discussion item. So I think that sounds like a good plan, and you don't need anything from us on that. So I appreciate the information on it. Yeah.
Right. It's one of those things that when it's gone, somebody's going to notice and then wonder why it's gone. And I think it's just appropriate for board to be able to have some background as to the why it's no longer going to be in service. And so.
Perfect.
Yeah. Very good.
Sounds good. All right. Well, then we'll move on to item 3B, our technology services update and contract status considerations.
And I've got Jake Slaybeck and Brent Williams here from TC Networks, so they're going to kind of start off. Just really, we wanted to give you an update on the status of our technology services in the district. We contract with TC Networks. They're an outside provider, though their office is literally on the other side of the wall here. And then we'll talk a little bit about their contract status as well, and some challenges that we've discovered, and perhaps some recommendations that we have. for your consideration. So, thank you. Yep.
Good evening, and thank you for having us. I'm going to get the slideshow in here. All right. All right, here's our agenda for tonight. We're hoping to do introductions. We'll go over the TC Network's on-site staff that he just mentioned on the other side of the door. We'll go over the School District of Beloit support that TC Networks provides. And then we'll save room for Q&A at the end. And then Bob will join us again with the contract portion. My name is Jake Slayback. I'm the account manager and IT director for the School District of Beloit. I've been with TC Networks for just over 4 years, and I do have 15 years in education technology.
My name's Brent Williams. I'm one of the network engineers for the Technology Services Department. I've been with TC Networks in the school district for over 7 years, and I've had over 15 years of experience in educational technology as well.
As you can see, here's who's actually on site. Myself and Brent, we already introduced. We also have Kevin Tipple, second engineer on site. And then we have 4 technicians. These technicians are both on site here at Keck and across the district for all the schools. Dean Larson, Amanda Brown, Matt McNulty, and brand new to the team this week, Kevin McLeod. So here's the support TC Networks offers to the School District of Beloit. It's kind of a high overview of what we do. And a lot of people have been here for 7, 10 plus years. They feel basically a part of the district. Again, we're on site right on the other side of the door. We provide building and classroom support across the district for all the different sites, including Keck and Ops, not just the schools. We ensure student success via reliable technology use with the Chromebooks, iPads, other devices. Maintain the secure Wi-Fi network and internet access through a lot of different variations and security things we'll touch on in a little bit, and promote the use of best practices for cybersecurity. I'd like to just kind of dive into a couple of what the tickets have looked like for the past decade or so. Really quick, I'll just go over what each thing is. So the first number is the created tickets. The next one is unresolved tickets. Unresolved could be anything where we leave it into an open status or a pending status, or even waiting on like vendors to get Chromebooks back to us to then get back to the students. So even though it says unresolved, it just means we haven't closed the ticket ourselves yet. So in the last decade, we've closed over 55,000 tickets for the School District of Beloit. One-touch tickets means it's been literally, we have to reply one time and the ticket's closed, and we're sitting at about 43% over the last 10 years, so we're pretty happy with that. And then reopened tickets means that we closed it and it did have to get reopened. We're under 14% on that. Last year, just kind of wanted to share what last year looked like. So over the course of last year, we closed over 9,000 tickets. And again, the other numbers look pretty similar to the slide before. But now you can see the unresolved tickets is only 2 because we were able to close so many in between those times. So a lot of things like over the summer projects, we'll put those on hold. Sometimes they have to wait until school starts, things like that. And then just this year, so from the start of school until November 1st, we've already solved 2,644 tickets. So I think we're going strong again this year with the support across the district. And I'm going to pass it over to Brent.
Thanks, Jake. So I'm going to cover a couple topics regarding cybersecurity, some things that we've been working on the last year or so. First, we're going to talk about KnowBe4. So KnowBe4 is a company that we partner with that helps us send out simulated phishing emails. So those emails that says, hey, there's a FedEx package waiting for you at your house. Click this link here. That's a simulated phishing email, or an email that you may see. And we do that because it helps bring awareness to phishing emails for staff, and we help train them on what not to click on, so we hopefully don't get a virus or a ransomware. Additionally, KnowBe4 offers monthly training video series that we'll be sending out probably this month. And they're little 1 to 3 minute snippets of videos that cover just basic topics in a fun and interactive manner. Next, we're going to talk about MFA. So MFA stands for multi-factor authentication, or otherwise known as two-step. And so you may be familiar with this with banks or other personal accounts. And so we did enforce MFA for all staff Google accounts just this last spring. Started with administration the previous year. However, we do have one more group left, and that's you, the school board. So we'll be sending out communication here in the next couple weeks for all school board members with instructions on how to get MFA set up for your district Google accounts and then we'll be available for any questions and feedback that you may have. And then we're also working with Skyward and other third-party systems to make sure that those systems are secure with MFA as well. EDR. So EDR is Endpoint Detection and Response. And essentially, this is complementary software to antivirus and anti-malware software that we already have on our computers. In this little brief paragraph, EDR is an endpoint security solution that continuously monitors end-user devices to detect and respond to cyber threats like ransomware and malware. We partner with Fortinet as our EDR provider, and we also utilize MDR, which stands for Managed Detection and Response, which essentially is a dedicated team at Fortinet. They review all of our EDR incidents, flag them, and then notify us if there's an incident within 5 minutes. So if we were potentially having a ransomware attack, they're guaranteeing at least a 5-minute window where we would be notified and we could start taking drastic actions. Lastly, we recently had a Google audit. We partnered with Amplified IT, which is a subcompany of CDW, and they covered 4 basic topics. So security, that could be anything for email security settings, Google Drive settings, access levels, things of that nature. They also went over best practices for standards for domains like ours, especially for other school districts and colleges and like entities. They talked about access levels, so different access levels for administrative privileges or email privileges, drive privileges, sharing privileges even, things of that nature. And then they also talked about drive limits. So we essentially have unlimited storage, but we pay for a certain amount, and they just want to make sure that we don't go over and pay extra for that storage that erroneously maybe doesn't need to be used. So those are some things that we covered and have been covering in the last year or so. And then we just want to pause if you have any questions.
Any questions from committee members?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Brent, I don't know if you remember me. I taught science at McNeil a couple years ago, and you were a savior, so thank you.
Well, thank you.
That's called delayed gratification.
Yes.
Nonetheless.
Yeah.
That's right. You take it anyway, right?
He was very patient and very methodical, and I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I just have a couple things. So, obviously ransomware is pretty top of mind in the local world right now with our friends in Rock County. So, you feel confident that we're in a better spot than they put themselves in? And as a follow-up question, does TC Networks do any support for Rock County?
The county?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of. And as far as the EDR goes in cybersecurity, we actually implemented this before that happened to some of the local places that I think you're referring to. So we were trying to prepare for it for years before they even had it happen. It just took us a few years to get approval here to get it in place, and we had that in place before that even happened. So,
But I will tell you, we feel a lot more confident than some other local districts because we have these different safeguards in place. We even heard about some local CISA organizations that were sending out phishing emails and their accounts were compromised because they didn't have two-factor. They didn't have secure access. They didn't have all these different safeguards in place. So we feel a lot more confident than we did about 3 years ago.
Okay. And then I'm just going to point something else out. It's only because you can thank Mr. Chady for this, because I wouldn't have noticed it had I had things added up in the previous one. But by the time I had gotten to this, on page 9, slide 9, your solved and unsolved tickets don't add up to your number of created tickets. So again, just nothing to comment on, but it just
We'll
doesn't.
take that back to the business office.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Not all people come through that way.
Dr. Garrison has an answer for him. Whenever it doesn't add up, he's got an answer for
No,
it.
the reason I can say that because I never put my tickets in. I just called downstairs. so somebody come help me.
It doesn't count for people that just call in.
Got it.
Just because a ticket gets submitted doesn't necessarily mean it's a priority and gets fulfilled, perhaps, too. Yeah. So we want to talk through a little bit about some contract stuff with you as well, because we really, we find ourselves in a unique position, and try my best to explain this to you. So in March of '23, the school board approved a one-year extension to the previous contract with TC Networks for the 23-24 school year. It was good, it was necessary, but what it did do is it caused a disruption in the alignment between the district's technology provider contract and our federal E-rate contract. It had been synced up perfectly, and then when the district extended the one-year contract with TC Networks, it then unintentionally caused this disruption in the alignment. So the district we're seeking to align the tech services contract with the federal 5-year E-rate contractual term for our managed services agreement with TC Network or with whomever. That will renew at the start of the 26-27 school year. So we really have this kind of 2-year window that we're trying to figure out how best to address. Speaking with our support team that helps us through E-rate, their suggestion was that could we contract or extend the contract with TC Networks either for another 2-year period of time, or could the district look at 2 more 1-year extensions with TC Networks? Because that then will put their contract ending and the federal E-rate program kind of all in alignment and mirrored back up. So we want to speak with you a little bit about that. And again, now I want to talk a little bit about E-rate, because you've heard that before earlier this evening when we were talking the monthly financials. So the E-rate is a federal program administered by an organization called USAC, the Universal Service Administrative Company. They provide federal funding to offset certain eligible technology services, internet access, and associated equipment for schools and libraries. The School District of Beloit, of course, is one of those. And I want to go through the E-rate process for you because I think this is important too. In the past, when the district put out an RFP for technology services, the district did, I got the document here someplace, a nice document that they release. I don't know how many pages it is. It's a few. But through the federal E-rate program, they've got a competitive bidding process. It's a requirement. It's the first step of the E-rate process is to go through competitive bidding. So essentially, you put out the same information as the RFP, though to be honest with you, the spread is greater because through E-rate, all national technology companies can see the opportunity and choose to either bid on it or decline it and say, no, we concentrate our business in Utah, they're in Wisconsin, we're not going to approach that. And then through the process, after the bidding process goes through, you have to, it's 28 days, I think, that the bidding process is open. At the end of the 28 days, that bidding process closes, and then there's a review of the bids received. And then locally, we can identify and select a provider. The discounts are applied, and the discounts can be either applied on a monthly basis, kind of at a reduced cost. So instead of paying $100,000, you may pay $85,000 and get that $15,000 discount right away. Or you can pay the $100,000 and you can get your $180,000 in discount reimbursed to you at the end of the year. And if you go back, reflect back on our monthly financials, you saw a significant increase as a result of E-rate. So that would be an example as to the why. Application review, then they start the services, and then you either pay for those discounts or, again, we apply for reimbursement. So there's this process. But again, I'll go back to this unique position that we find ourselves in now. When the board extended, when the administration recommended the extension of that contract with TC Networks, it kind of caused this disruption that just was unforeseen and unrecognized at the time. So again, we've got this 2-year period of time that we're trying to figure out, do we go out for RFP locally for 2 years? I don't know, that's kind of a lot of work. Do we look to extend the contract with TC Networks for, an additional 1-year extension? Or is the committee and the board interested in willing to do a 2-year extension? Thus, kind of realigning those things so that in the 25-26 school year, we tackle both at once. The other aspect that I'll offer at this point in time, the RFP process, quite honestly, can be a little bit intense. I'm just concerned about my own time and availability to dedicate and devote resources to this when we're also working on operational referendum considerations in, 24, 25 budget stuff as well right now. But we'll do what we have to do. So just kind of raising the flag and asking for guidance.
The other thing that we have to consider is that I think in current policy, we would probably have to suspend policy if we were to extend for another year with the TC networks due to the policy stating that we have 1-year renewals before we have to go back to, before we have to do a RFP process. So we have to suspend policy to possibly extend our work with TC Networks to reopen the policy to do the RFP. So there's that conversation as well. Again, according to policy, we can only do an extension for 1 year, as I understand it.
Would the E-rate program count as having gone out to RFP since that's what they're doing?
Right, so I question that as well. So, our board policy speaks to a request for proposal process, which seems a little stringent. They know a lot more about technology stuff than I do. I don't know that I can write a good RFP about technology. I mean, I could by going to our vendor colleagues and asking them for assistance, but isn't that kind of stacking the deck almost, Help write the RFP that you're going to, respond to. However, that federal E-rate program, again, identifies the same requirements and needs that the district's seeking, and honestly just casts a wider net. Even if we did a local RFP, I'm not sure who all we'd send it to. I'm not sure that they'd help me identify other competitors, so.
What time frame do you want to wrap this up in or make that decision?
Boy, when we talked with Sarah, I'm sorry?
Everything needs to be done by February.
Everything has to be done, thank you. Yeah, our E-rate consultant with CISA 10 is indicating that we need to have this kind of wrapped up and bowed up by the end of February. End of February, beginning of
And that would
February?
be including the 28 days leading up to February, I believe.
Okay,
So really,
so we got a few months, but,
not a few, actually December and maybe January. But it's my hopes that the board understands that if whatever decisions we make, this is a decision that we need to, have collective agreement to. As again, naturally, our vendors are here, but naturally we'll have to make this a competitive opportunity for others to get into the conversation. So that was just an informational point that we need to bring to the board's attention at this point. I do think for time, we do need to move into the next conversation. Board leader here, Mr. Anderson.
Very good. All right, item 4A, we got 3 action items. A is the Fund 60 Student Activity Groups approval.
yeah, so according to School Board Policy 662.1, Management of Student Activity Funds, it states that the board will annually authorize the student activity programs it wishes to be operational. Presented here are the current student activities at Beloit Memorial High School. The only one that is new, I believe, was the freshman class of 2027. Essentially, what these student activity accounts do is they capture the revenues and receipts for various fundraising or events that they hold. And then obviously those same accounts pay out the expenditures associated with the same. So every year you can anticipate there will be a new class of, because every year there's a new freshman class at the high school. But again, just bringing this before the board, per board policy for your acknowledgement and motion to accept and approve.
Anybody have any questions from the committee? Any from non-committee members? Otherwise, we'd entertain a motion to approve the Fund 60 student activity groups as presented.
So moved.
Second.
It's moved by Board Member Nichols, seconded by Board Member Johnson. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? That passes. Move on to item 4B regarding a 3-month extension on the Blackhawk Bank line of credit.
Yeah, so I spoke with Blackhawk Bank about a week ago with regards to our line of credit with them. That credit line actually expired November 1st, 2023, though they indicated that they felt comfortable that they would be willing to extend that line of credit for an additional 3 months. Just for those that aren't aware, Blackhawk Bank is going through an acquisition. That will change to First Mid effective December 4th. So just trying to get over that hump there, and then also to provide a little bit of time for the district. Typically, school districts hit their low point in cash twice during the school year. Once is typically around the midpoint of November. So about another 7 to 10 days is when Beloit will hit our low point. We have sufficient assets on hand to make it through that period of time. So I'm not concerned about that at all. The next low point will come mid-June. That's the other low point that districts have when cash is impacted as well. So we've got some time, but again, we're just seeking the board's okay to extend that line of credit in the amount of $7 million for a 3-month period of time while First Mid takes care of their internal things, and then we can make our formal application to renew the actual line.
Perfect. Any questions? All right, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to extend that Blackhawk Bank line of credit for 3 months.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's moved by Board Member Johnson, seconded by Board Member Nichols. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And opposed? That passes. Item 4C, Chromebook bids and recommendation for purchase.
Grant that are going to be under budget, which will provide some flexibility. So there's the chance that the ESSER 3 grant could pay for the entire Chromebook replacement, the $286,000 in its entirety, though there's also an equal chance, I would say, that ESSER 3 may pay for a lion's share of it, and then a portion of it may still have to come out of technology. So we're still trying to work out those details. But again, we're looking to purchase and kind of get on an annual replacement cycle with Chromebooks instead of buying large quantities at one point in time and then having them all kind of run out of their useful life at the same point in time in the future. So.
All right, like you said, we've seen this before. Any other questions?
I've got a question. So these Chromebooks go to, we're replacing all the high school Chromebooks? What?
No.
I'm sorry, I wasn't here at last month's meeting.
So these Chromebooks would actually go to 4th and 8th graders. So 4th and 8th grade would receive the new Chromebooks this year, and then the intention would be every year we would buy an equal set, I think, for 3rd and 8th grade going forward. So there's kind of, the intention is you get a Chromebook in 3rd or 4th grade, you hold on to it for like 4 years. 4 years is kind of the useful life of a device like that. You get a Chromebook in 8th grade, you hold on to it through the end of your graduation. And then, the district can even either retain those Chromebooks and resell them. Typically you can, maybe resell a device for $15, $20, $25 on the market, or maybe you just leave it with those graduating seniors as a graduation gift because, the resale value is rather minimal, so.
And can you or somebody let me know? I know in the past, the elementary students were not allowed to take devices home. Middle school students weren't allowed to take devices home, but then COVID happened. I think some of that changed. Are these going home with students now?
So I can answer that. So part of it is also based off of need, right? And a lot of times we want to be a one-to-one school district, as many districts after COVID moved towards. So really it's based off of need. If a student needs to take a Chromebook home, then it's a process that we kind of work through to make sure that happens. So right as it stands, yes, they can check out a Chromebook if they really needed to take it home to use it for homework, to bring it back. But keep in mind, if it's damaged, then it's part of the responsibility of the family to help us replenish that opportunity. So to answer your question shortly, yes, but it's also based off of the need of having to do that. We also know that there may be some inclement weather days that may be approaching here. And if we have to have a snow day or a virtual learning day based off of how many days we have allotted in our school district instructional time framework, that will allow us to say, okay, well, they have to go home because we have to provide a virtual learning day. And some of our families may need those Chromebooks.
Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, we would, yep, go ahead.
So I think it was, 2012, 2013, if anybody knows, when did the district implement the one-to-one devices for the students?
The goal was, I thought, gears, so our first wave of funding with COVID the goal was to become a one-to-one device as an equitable approach to close the digital divide.
When was the Gears conversation though?
That's at 18, 19,
Yeah, 1920, I think.
first wave of federal funding for the pandemic,
Right.
before us.
The district may have had an initiative prior to that, but it may have been targeted towards, certain grade levels, like intermediate school, high school, or, yeah.
It happened when the government said that we could pretty much start using these funds to do such things. Again, Gears, if they as stated, 2019, I think it was 2019.
Yeah.
And then of course we purchased more during the pandemic.
So this question is actually outside the scope of the Finance Committee, but I'm wondering if there is any data that shows the effectiveness of a one-to-one device for, electronic device for students that are in kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade.
I mean, it's something that we could possibly look into. Typically, at those earlier ages, we wouldn't necessarily send them home due to the possibilities of them, being damaged. But again, that is something that we can look into. I can't give you a perfect answer for that statement right now, for that question right now.
Any other questions from committee members? Non-committee members? None? So this is the second time, so if there's a motion to move this to the full board for approval, I'd entertain that now.
So moved.
I'll second. So moved by Board Member Nichols, seconded by Board Member Anderson. Any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against?
Nay.
That motion passes. Moving on to our meeting closing. Our next meeting date is Tuesday, December 5th at 5:30 PM. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Board Member Johnson, seconded by Board Member Nichols. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, and opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to call to order the Human Resource Committee meeting for Tuesday, November 7th, 2023, to order at 6:31 PM. Mr. Shope, could I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Greg Schneider,
Present.
Amy Levy, Megan Miller,
Present.
Brian Anderson,
Present?
Brian Nichols,
Here.
Tia Johnson,
Here.
Amy Levy,
Here.
and Sean Levy.
Present.
All members are present.
Okay. Is there a motion for the approval of the agenda?
So moved?
Second.
Before there's a second, I just wanted to point out that item 2C, which lists the approval of closed session minutes, there are minutes listed for October 3rd, but not for October 17th. I'm wondering, are those available? Is that?
Okay. Just a minute here.
Not quite sure what happened, but the 10th and the 17th should be attached. So I'm not sure why those aren't there, because I did attach them.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how you want to handle that.
We'll approve the ones that we do have. And then we'll have to bring the other ones around again.
Okay, apologize for that.
Okay. No problem. All right, so the motion for the approval of the agenda was, motion was made by Board Member Brian Anderson. There was a second by Board Member Brian Nichols. We've had the clarification of what's available. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye, the motion passes unanimously. And approval of the agenda, approval of minutes. We're on the 2A. Employment recommendations. Is there a need to go into closed session for Exhibit A or B?
Oh, point of order, Board President Levy, was there a motion to approve the minutes?
I thought
There wasn't.
Was that the agenda? Did I jump?
Yeah, you
Okay,
jumped.
gotcha. Yeah, I jumped over D. I thought,
That's okay, but if I may, before there's a motion and a second, I just wanted to point out that there's no information included for item 2, action B, And this section would normally include motion language and voting results for the employee recommendations of A and B. So we may want to hold the minutes until they're complete.
Can you repeat your statement one more time, Board Member Levy? I'm sorry, I want to catch
Yeah,
that.
no problem. So the minutes that are attached for October 17th, if you'll notice, under item 2, action B is highlighted, but there's no information included. Traditionally, what would go under action B is the motion language and the results from a vote for employee recommendations A and B, which happened on the 17th, but it's not captured in the minutes. So we may want to hold those minutes until they're complete and then approve them.
So I'm looking at action B. I see the highlight. What is missing that you're proposing there?
So under the highlight, there's usually a motion made by, seconded by, with respect to employee recommendations A and B. So we approved employee recommendations A and B on October 17th, but that's not included in the minutes. And then the result of the vote will be there as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. I see what's missing. Okay. Okay. So I didn't offer the approval of the minutes motion yet. Well, seeing that we're missing October 10th and October 17th, if nobody offers a motion, then we won't do that. Is there a motion for the approval of the minutes for October 17th?
So moved.
Is there a second? All right. It's okay. Is there a second? There is no second. So we'll move on to 2A now, and we'll work to make sure that those minutes are corrected. We'll get it together. All right, 2A. So the motion didn't pass. There was no second offered. We're all good. It's okay. Board Member Levy, hey, thank you for pointing that out. All right. 2A, does anyone have a need to go into closed session for Exhibit A or B before I read the statement? Okay, does anyone have a motion for Exhibit A or B?
Can we do questions, if there are any questions on exhibits A and B?
Okay, we'll take questions on Exhibit A and B.
Exhibit B?
A or B? We start with A or B, exhibits.
Well, I don't have a question for A, but I have a comment for B.
Okay, so let's wait for a minute. Let's deal with A first.
I have a couple questions on A. The first new employment hire and the first retirement resignation are the same person within 2 days. Could we get a little, can you share anything with us? I mean, that's,
I should have just took us in the closed session.
Good evening. So your question is about the resignations?
well, it's the hiring on the 18th and the resignation on the 20th.
Same person.
Same person.
Yes,
Is there a reason? I mean, other than,
yes. So this particular individual only worked for us for less than a handful of days and decided not to stay with us.
okay.
Oh, okay. All right, any other questions? I see Board Member Levy has about to take, were you just pointing out that she had her, do you have a, okay. Board Member Levy?
My question is actually for Exhibit B, so I don't want to cut anyone off if there are other questions in the room for Exhibit A.
Okay, any other Exhibit A questions?
I'm sorry, my comment was actually for Exhibit A, and I just wanted to point out, and for the people who may be watching that don't know how to navigate the website, that we are losing 7 educators. 7 educators in the past month have voluntarily left. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because this is, well, one, it's not unique to Beloit, it's nationally, but we have to really, in terms of educating our students, we have to do better, and part of doing that is treating our educators correctly, and I'm not saying we don't, but by having 7 fewer people, that distributes more work on everybody else. So please be patient and keep that in mind when dealing with teachers and understanding the stress they're under. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Anybody else with Exhibit A questions? Exhibit B?
Thank you. So I've been told in the past with respect to buddies and mentors that there is no cap, similar to how we do other addendum matrix items. So we'll have as many as needed has been the explanation in the past. So not now, but at some point before our next meeting on November 21st, if anyone from the administration could just provide the cost of buddies and mentors, excuse me, for the 2022-2023 school year and where we are currently with that expense, that would be helpful, please.
Absolutely. You can expect to get that this week.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Board Member Levy, would you mind also sharing your question one more time? I was trying to write that down.
Oh yeah, no problem. So just to give some context, like prior to this administration, when I asked, is there a cap on how many buddies we can have or how many mentors, the response has been no, we'll provide as many as we need. And I get that fluctuates from year to year. So my question is, since there isn't a cap and it's not something like we know we have X amount of noon supervision, and we can plan for that being the max amount that we would expend in that area. Just looking at last year and then where we are so far this year, what was the expense for the last school year for the total number of buddies and mentors across the district, and where are we from the beginning of the year to now with that expense would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any Exhibit A or Exhibit B questions? Is there a motion for the approval of Exhibit A and Exhibit B?
So moved.
I'll second.
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Greg Schneider, seconded by Board Member Brian Anderson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Go into closed session. All right. So we're now on to 3A. Computer is doing. Our next meeting date is Tuesday, November 21st at 6:30 PM. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Greg Schneider and seconded by Board Member Brian Nichols. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. We'll start our next meeting at 7.
Before that, probably. Before that, yeah. call.
All right, make sure I'm on here. All right, to our board members in the audience, we're getting ready to begin. I'm going to call to order the November 7th, 2023 regular board meeting at 7 p.m. Mrs. Shope, could I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Tia Johnson,
Here.
Brian Nichols,
Here.
Brian Anderson,
Here.
Megan Miller, Amy Levy,
Here.
Greg Schneider,
Present.
and one more time for Megan Miller, and Sean Levy.
Present.
All members are present except Megan Miller.
I have a motion for the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, was that Brian Nichols? Okay. A motion by Brian Nichols, a second by Tia Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Let me go back. The Board of Education would like to let our families and viewers know that our regular board meetings are being simultaneously interpreted. You can watch the Spanish interpreted meeting through the link found at the board website under the Watch Meetings tab with tonight's date. In order to accommodate this interpretation, we will be monitoring the pace of our meeting to allow time for the interpretation. And I'd like to remind our board members and others speaking to please speak one at a time. Thank you so much for your consideration and understanding. All right. Roll call. And I will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Shope, do we have any public comment tonight?
No, I have not received any public comment via email or here.
Okay. We're on to item 3A, reports to the board, superintendent board report.
All right, thank you so much. Let me make sure I got my camera on here. Yes, I do. Sorry about that. 1 second. I'm gonna pull up this note I have. So. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. Of course, we have some guests in the crowd. I would like to start with our guest. Naturally, we've been making some things happen throughout the beginning of the school year, looking at some of the things that we did over the reconfiguration. Tonight, I would like to thank our library and media specialists for all of the work that they did to help move our buildings, moving not just books, but materials. The list goes on and on as it pertains to what they have done in this space. You know, like I know, the work that happens not only in the schools, but also in the libraries goes without saying. And again, I would like to thank everyone who has had a heavy lift in that conversation. It wasn't easy moving all of the materials from our buildings that had to transition. And of course, reorganizing a lot of the materials and even in our earlier levels as well. Naturally, we do have libraries throughout our school district, and those books that was moved from the middle school conversation down to the elementary conversation all had to be organized by somebody, right? And then that group of people are here with us today. I can't say it enough, but again, a huge thank you for the work and time that you all have put into this conversation. We can't do this without everyone, being on the same page. Again, oftentimes I put a plan together and then I expect certain people to help me to move that plan forward. You all had done that. And again, I would be remiss as it pertains to the materials that had to be moved, and you all did it. And so I know we were working up under a tight timeline for that to happen. Everyone knew that. In my conversations over the summer in the school district, I said we needed to be ready on day one. And you all rolled up your sleeves and you really made that happen for a lot of our students and families. And so on behalf of the school district of Beloit, myself, and naturally the school board as well. I would like to say thank you, and thank you. Mrs. Moratek is here as well. I know she oversees this department, and I know she wanted to share a few words as well, so please.
Sure. Good evening. I know we got to talk a little bit at our luncheon a couple weeks ago, but I wanted to just, say publicly thank you so much. Brandy Grady is our librarian for the entire district. And so she manages and oversees and coordinates with this team of library media specialists every single one of our libraries. And that is a lot of work, and it's just a lot of knowledge and a skill set that you don't often find. And so I just truly appreciate her leadership. And I love this number because I just love this number. They organized and categorized and redistributed 95,000 books this summer. So they had to take all of the 4th and 5th grade books that were in the intermediate schools and move them to our K-5 buildings, and then reshuffle the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade books to the 2 other sites. So that was a lot of work, and it was managed. They actually finished before the deadline on top of all that. And in addition, they do a lot of work with our technology. We just had that conversation. So the managing and coordinating of Chromebook distribution, making sure that students have and families have what they need. So it goes beyond just the library because we see, those as tools and resources as well. So I just really want to say thank you publicly for the work that you do. This is a job that's a behind the scenes and the front of the scenes with the kids, but sometimes you don't know all of the things that are happening in a school system, and this is definitely an example of that. So again, thank you so much, and I appreciate you.
And so, would you please do me the honor and favor, all of Brandy Grady, of course, please stand, and all of the library and media specialists who have helped us tremendously, so we can give you all a round of applause. Thank you so much. If you all could do me a huge favor and the honor and go into the mic and just stating what school that you work from. I know no one was expecting to talk on the mic tonight, but please state your name naturally and what school that you support. We may be missing some of our opportunities here, but the people that are in the room, I definitely want to note your name and in that conversation. So please go to the mic and let us know what school you represent. Yeah.
Librarian at Fruzen.
Thank you, Larry. Oh, the mic.
Ooh, even louder. I'm Rachel Ferrix. I'm the librarian at Fruzen. That's what the kids call me. So I belong to Fruzen.
Jolene Hall. I am in Hackett Elementary.
Thank you, Ms. Hackett.
Shakoya Douglas. Sorry, my voice. I am at BLA, and I also travel between the district libraries.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Monica Garrett Aldridge.
And Brandy Grady, district librarian. But I do want to just add that I never thought we were going to finish this summer. I thought I was going to be spending all fall wandering from building to building, trying to get everything done that didn't get done. And this amazing group just whipped it out, and we got everything done. So they were an amazing group this summer. We did so much work.
And again, one more round of applause. Thank you so much. That is part of my superintendent's update. Additionally, I would like to say it's been a very busy month with a high focus on our budget. At our last conversation at the board level on October 17th, we hadn't approved our budget since then. Of course, we have presented a budget to the board, and I must say it's a balanced budget as well. With this in mind, I would like to thank everyone who has worked with us in this space, in the business office, and of course the administrative team. It took a lot of work from all of us advocating both at the state level to receive additional funds, as well as work that was done in our own school district to get to that conversation. And so again, I would be remiss if I didn't put some things in a regular board meeting for that conversation, and that our other conversations was at a special board meeting. Additionally, we have been off to a great start, as I've stated before. My hopes is that we will continue to stay on this great start. One of the things that I pride myself on, that the school district prides itself on, is making sure that we are providing accurate information as pertains to how we're doing in our schools. I would like to note that tonight we'll hear a little bit more from our communications department on how we are communicating the things that are happening in our school district. We know that there are some things that we need to work on. I always make sure that that's a statement that I put in the atmosphere. But there are also some great things that we are working on in our district that also needs to be noted. I would like to thank everybody once again for an awesome start to the school year. And one could argue, yeah, we're in November, but it still feels like summer or fallish. Fallish. And so I think with this great weather, we're off again to a great start in our school district. I'd also like to thank our administrative team. I know sometimes I don't mention them a lot in my superintendent's report, but our administrative team does a lot of work, and a lot of the behind the scenes conversations that happens on a daily basis with our students and our staff. And those buildings are being ran by administrators. And so although I don't have any administrators here tonight in this conversation, I would just like to publicly again thank my administrative team, principals in the buildings, who do a lot of the heavy lifting on a day-to-day basis inside of the buildings. I typically am in the buildings throughout the week. I kind of am on a rotation. That's kind of why I put my own self on a rotation to be in the buildings. And so every time I'm in the buildings, I feel welcomed. I feel like this is a space where we want to send our families, our students, we want all of our families to come to the school district of Beloit naturally. But I know that when I'm in the buildings, I can see why our great district should be selected. And so again, thank you to the administrative principals who have help oversee the buildings on a day-to-day basis. Naturally, at this point, you can't thank the principals without also thanking the teachers. And again, our teachers in this space, again, we can't do any of the work without our teachers. And naturally, I would like to thank them for the work that they've done up to this point. Our students is the reason why we're here. And in my superintendent's report, I would not leave this out on this conversation. I know we thank our students for a lot of the things that you are already doing, but even tonight, y'all are in the room doing some type of work for your school and your school assignment. And so without you all, none of us would be here. We are here to service the students. You are our #1 priority, and it will always be that way under my leadership. And so again, thank you so much for all the work that you have done in your career being here as a student, but also to all of the students in our school district. We know that we are asking you to do a lot. We're asking you to do a lot. But if you stick with us and stay with us, that a lot turns into, it's the work that should happen. And then every day, we hope that learning is fun and is an experience for you to take back home with you and to share with your families, and not just your families, but to everyone in your family and friends as well. And so again, to the students, I would like to say thank you. Thank you, and again, thank you for the much hard work that you've put in up until this point. Last but not least, last month we did share our thanks to our board. It was the Board Appreciation Week, and I know the poster is down. So it was up there for quite some time, and so it's not to say that we don't thank you anymore, because it's like we had the Appreciation Week, and I left it up there, but now it's down. But again, thank you, board, for allowing me to lead the school district in a way in which I believe will continuously be beneficial to our school district. And with that being said, that concludes my superintendent's report for today.
Anybody have questions, comments? Okay. Well, just again, on behalf of the board, we do want to thank our librarians and media specialists for all the work that you've done. That 95,000 is a big number. And to think about the other spaces, the learning spaces that happen for our young people, and the opportunities that you create. Sometimes children just need a space to get away from the classroom and everything else. But so like when we think about school being a social and emotional experience as well as academic, we know that you create that space, and we're thankful for you. So once again, thank you. This is the opportunity. You don't have to stay the whole meeting if you'd like to leave. This is a space where we offer that. All right. But once again, thank you. All right. We are now at item 4, A, B, C, D, and E, I believe, our committee reports. And we'll start with Business Operations and Finance Committee.
So the Business Operations and Finance Committee had a good discussion today. Covered a few things you'll see on the consent agenda. We covered our September financials. We're off to a good start for the year compared with our budget, so that's a good start so far. We moved forward the student activity groups for the year. We moved forward the idea or the possibility of getting additional Chromebooks in the hands of our students and getting those refreshed, as well as an extension to our line of credit that we have with our financial institution. So those are on the consent agenda. And our next meeting is on Tuesday, December 5th at 5:30 here, if anybody wants to join us and be part of that discussion.
Teaching, Learning, Equity, and Pupil Services.
Hi, good evening. There's no report tonight, but tune in 2 weeks at 5:30, and we'll be all ready to meet. Thanks.
All right. For the Governance Committee, I bring to the attention of the full board that we did meet on October 24th, 2023 at 6 p.m. We had EUA, our partners, provided our long-range facility planning, facility assessment summary report. This was a conditions assessment where they looked at the conditions of each of the buildings in the school district of Beloit, gave each building a rating, 1 through 5, also provided information about the projects and the additions to each of the buildings over time. This information will be used along, this is one part of 3. We'll have an educational adequacy report coming to us, and then a capacity and utilization to help us with our planning of our capital needs, and then the things that we have to do in our long-range facility plan and our master facility plan to make decisions that are coming forward for us. This will probably be brought to the full board. Most likely it will be brought to the full board. We just ran it through the governance to get it into the space and have that presentation. So look forward to that coming again. D, legislative update, and E, policy. Legislative update and policy.
None this evening.
The policy committee will meet next on Wednesday, December 6th at 5:30.
Okay. All right. We're now on to 5, our consent agenda. And is there a motion for the consent agenda? So
Actually, I
moved.
need a couple items pulled, few items.
Okay.
Item B,
One
as
more.
in boy, C, as in Charlie, double C. So those 3 items, please.
Board Member Levy, can you call those out again, please?
Absolutely. B as in boy, C as in Charlie, and double C as in Charlie, Charlie, please. But
B, C, and CC. All right. Is there anybody else items to remove from the consent agenda? Is there a motion for the consent agenda minus items B, C, and CC?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Board Member Greg Schneider, second by Board Member Brian Nichols. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. The motion passes unanimously.
Oh, wait a second. We didn't approve those in the last meeting, so I'm sorry.
Okay, we got you. Yep. The Board Member Levy, item B.
Thank you. So it's my understanding that for anyone who's listening who's not looking, item B is the 2023-2024 Fund 60 Student Activity Group approval. So a few things. I'll just run through my short list, and then please let me know if you need me to repeat anything. It's my
Your sound is
understanding that
trailing.
elections for class. Oh, would somebody need me to pause?
Your sound is trailing.
Oh. Okay. It's my understanding that elections for class officers are held at the end of the school year for rising sophomores through seniors. So my first question is, when are class offices held for freshmen?
I do not have that information, Board Member Levy. Elections held for class office for freshmen.
For freshman class officers.
I can get that information to you. But I don't
Thank you
have
so
it.
much. That's good. And then I noticed that included in the purpose for both the freshman class of 2027 and the sophomore class of 2026 is decorating for homecoming. Have there been any discussions about having actual floats? I'm going to date myself a little bit, but I remember when I was an active Purple Knight, we had floats that we envisioned and created. Have there been any discussions to bring that back? I'm hopeful, since homecoming decorations is a part of the class purpose.
You bring up a great question, and one of the things that I did ask about was our floats, or why didn't we have floats? And again, it was just a natural question because I'm used to seeing floats at homecoming parades, and I heard that there was a very rich tradition of floats in our school district for many years.
Yes.
For many years. I think that changed for various reasons. One of the main reasons was our route was changed as well. We used to go towards downtown here in Beloit, as I understand it, and now our route has changed to be more, I like to call it the Beloit rectangle or the high school rectangle. And again, this was something that was put in place, prior to my arrival. The route that did change, and so it'd make it very hard to do floats in our rectangle that we now operate in. I have had some conversations about the floats returning, but that would also mean that we would need to consider having additional conversations at the city level to resume our previous route that we again used to have for many years, and so. That, yes, to answer your question, yes, but that is the background of the conversations that I've already started to have about let's bring back the floats. But that would mean we would have to re-engage the city with the conversation of bringing back our normal route going towards downtown.
Dr. Garrison, thank you for that context. So just to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, are you saying it's more difficult to have a float on a shorter route than it is to have a float on a longer route? I'm not making that connection.
Sure. So right as it stands right now, the amount of homecoming people that participate, by the time we start and get to the end, it's pretty fast. We do need that space and time to really have a good route to fill up the float time that we had. I guess from my understanding, the route went downtown and it kind of looped back around and came back. Not back to the high school, but came back to a certain spot. And I was thinking that if the floats were big, then by the time the beginning float gets to the end, I don't know, it's just not enough. Yes, it's not enough space in my humble opinion.
Okay.
We need to make it farther.
So if I may offer this, I'm all for a longer parade route. I promise I won't take up too much more time on this. We used to have Telfer for the week, and floats were constructed under the pavilion. I'm willing to go on record. I will help. I think we need to bring this back for our students. All right, I will put a pin in that one. The next point is, I noticed that the junior class of 2025 includes in its purpose providing safe, fun, and engaging activities for students at BMHS/BLA. I love that there's that inclusion of BLA for the junior class. And I'm not saying all of the purposes have to be the same, but do you know if there has been, like, what is the process for creating the purpose for your class?
I don't have that information as well, creating the purpose for your class. I can get that information to you sometime this week. I just have to send the question to the principals.
That would be perfect. And my final question on that, is there a reason only student activities from Beloit Memorial High School are listed on the 2023-2024 student activity summary? Are there student activity groups at other schools utilizing Fund 60?
Mr. Chady can answer that question. Sorry.
Yeah, no, all of the Fund 60 accounts are currently at Beloit Memorial High School. There were some holdover Fund 60 accounts at McNeil and perhaps at Cunningham as well. And the business office is in the process of transitioning those accounts to Fund 21 accounts at Fruzen and Aldrich.
Okay, so like NJHS, that would be Fund 21 and not Fund 60?
I don't have the documentation in front of me, but if that was a student activity account at McNeil as an example, yes, that would be transitioned to Fund 21 going forward.
And then could you just give a brief update? What is the distinction? What would make something Fund 60 versus Fund 21?
So Fund 60 is really more student-led. They have officers. They are the ones that determine the activities of the club, including the fundraising and the expenditures. Oftentimes that's done with the assistance of a staff member, but it's really student-directed. And Fund 21 activity accounts are really more overseen by club advisors and staff members that serve in an advisory capacity or a coach for those activity groups.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. And I'll just speak as a Fruzen parent. I know that NJHS is very much student-led with advisor assistance, and I'm noticing that that's not included. So I just want to make sure that we did our due diligence to make sure that all funds that fall under all activities that fall under Fund 60 are included in this approval.
Yep.
That's just one that I can think of that is not.
I'm sorry. I just want to make sure for clarity. Would that, Mr. Chady, would the mentioned activity fall under Fund 60?
No, so the Fund 60 accounts, again, don't necessarily have a student, a paid student advisor, I would say, or a coach.
Okay. I'll make sure we know.
You know, so like the class of 2026, you know, is going to have student officers that will serve as president, vice president, secretary, treasurer. That student body needs to adopt motions to execute the approval to expend resources, so.
Okay.
No, I think we may have missed my point. And this is just an example that I'm aware of. The NJHS at Fruzen, and I believe there's one at Aldridge as well, has student officers. They do fundraisers. They make decisions about how money is expended, but they're not included on the Fund 60 student activities.
That is correct, and nor should they be. Those two entities, as examples, likely have a student advisor that is paid, that then helps facilitate the decision-making by those student groups.
I would add, as we've kind of talked about just in my time on the board, what I remember of this conversation between what's a Fund 60 and what's a Fund 21, it's in the, as is designated by the administration, those are clubs that have been presented before us. So I would think, like, Board Member Levy, what you're suggesting is that you feel that certain clubs or organizations should be Fund 60 versus Fund 21. That's something I think that we should talk to Dr. Garrison about as it relates to our student services. Like I said, if that was the desire that you want student leadership and a different experience than what is provided when students are at the direction of adult advisors versus leadership in that capacity and decision making. That's they've been classified as they are now for this year, but that's a conversation for us to have with Dr. Garrison.
No, and I'm not saying that anything should change unless I'm not advocating for something to move from 21 to 60 if that's not where it's supposed to be. But if I'm understanding correctly, NJHS is not covered because they have a paid advisor. Isn't that the class advisor, which is also a paid addendum? And they're listed under Fund 60.
I think I'll look at, if you send me I understand your question, and I'll have to look at whether or not they belong in 60 or 21.
So I would say a number of years ago, I think it was about 3 years ago, there was new GASB, Governmental Accounting Standards Board statements that came out that then worked through the Department of Public Instruction and caused districts to reclassify a number of Fund 60 accounts to Fund 21. It appears to me that Beloit has made that migration appropriately.
Thank you for your question.
That's fine. We can
No.
take, oh,
No, I'm saying thank you for your question. I mean, the question is valid. We want to make sure we put the right things in the right spaces, but as it stands, this is where we had them currently.
no, that's completely fine. And if others need to come back, I'm sure that we can make that happen. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding how groups were categorized and that the list that we were approving was comprehensive, but it looks like we need to do some follow-up on that. I am ready to move on to item C, unless there was anything else. All right. So if someone could remind me, I believe at one point we had established a dollar amount threshold for which something would come as an action item versus a consent item. If someone knows what that number is off the top of their head, that would be helpful. But the reason I'm asking is because the Chromebook bid and recommendation for purchase totaled $855,810. And it seems to me that would be an action item and not a consent item. So just a couple questions, and then let me know if you need me to repeat anything. Listed in the quote in the line item is a 5-year warranty for accidental damage protection with loss and theft coverage. And it's just listed as included. It's not stated as an additional charge for that. So does this mean that if we go ahead with IT Savvy, that parents will not have to sign the forms taking responsibility for damaged, lost, or stolen devices because it's already covered?
I can try to speak to some of that, and Mr. Slayback's online as well. Hopefully he can jump in and correct any misstatement on my part. So first off, the request with IT Savvy, they actually quoted 3 devices, 3 similar devices. It is not the district's intention to purchase 740 of each of those devices. The district's intention is to purchase, I believe, the Dell 3110 line items 13 through 18 on the back portion of the quote for a total of $286,010. As for the line item 17 about the warranty, accidental damage, protection with loss and theft, no, it would certainly be the district's intention to continue that practice. And in fact, we likely need to be, to implement that practice with greater fidelity. We've got a number of devices that become damaged going back and forth from home. We have a number of devices that depart the school district to quote unquote go home but never return to the school district. So we've got concerns that we're working through, in those regards. It's kind of that quandary of trying to support the student educational achievement needs, especially with regards to today's technology standards, but at the same token, mitigating against damages that occur, broken screens, et cetera, and then just outright loss or theft.
So just for clarification, it's confusing to attach a quote that has a totaled amount of $855,810, especially since there's not a presentation to the board. It was only to the committee, and not all of us were able to make it to those committees. So you're saying that the total on the end of the quote does not apply to what is being requested of the board this evening, that it's just items 13 through 18, totaling just under $300,000. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and then if the gentleman that you said was online, maybe he can help me understand if a care warranty with accidental damage protection with loss and theft is included, then why would we double dip and make parents responsible for that if it's already covered? What am I missing?
I guess I would just piggyback off of what Mr. Shady said, and it's just that if it doesn't get back to us, we still try to charge to end up replacing it. The loss and theft helps us get a replacement back, but if we do ever find it, we have to return it.
Okay, maybe I am not clear, and if that's the case, please forgive me. Item 17 says Chrome Care warranty with accidental damage protection. So if there's an accident and it's damaged, it's protected with loss and theft coverage. So if that's already included with what the district is paying with the $286,010, why would we double dip and also charge families if something happens?
I guess I apologize. I cannot answer that any further.
Not all items may be covered under a part of that warranty, though.
Then it seems to me, in the spirit of transparency, that any exemptions or exclusions should be listed.
Okay, that we can get.
If I may. So it says accidental. Is there a difference between accidental versus intentional?
Thank you.
Yeah, we try to be very honest with if someone throws it on the ground intentionally, that would not be covered. If someone shuts a pencil inside in between an accident and it breaks the screen, that would be covered.
Yeah, additionally, Board Member Levy, we have not discussed or have a norm for what things need to be taken off of the consent agenda, but just that the items that are approved at the committee level will come to the consent agenda, and if people want them removed, as you've done, they'll be removed and discussed. And the presentation did occur at the committee level, as you said, and like you're doing now, asking questions about it is the process that we're using and have used.
Okay, then, and this is a separate conversation, but I'll just throw it out there. It may be prudent to have a set dollar amount, and that triggers whether something goes to an action item or remains on the consent agenda. But again, we don't have to go further with that discussion this evening. So my final point is, and again, this was presented at the committee level, but not at the full board. Can someone just give me a very high level overview as to why IT Savvy is being recommended over the other entities that were included?
Yeah, we have an ongoing relationship with them, and we already have a set up pickup schedule once a week with them for our repair schedule, where they do a repair and drop off with us, or anything that needs to be replaced, broken screens, damage that we talked about previously, that kind of stuff. And we currently have that going with them. We would like to continue that as well. They also have a great price, and the Dell Chromebook 3110 that they recommended is one of their lowest rated fixed devices that they offer.
So if I can summarize your summary, because we have a relationship with them and they have the lowest price, that's why they're being recommended.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
All right, so let's go. Do you have any other questions for C? All right, so
No, thank you.
just want to come back to, so is there a motion for the approval of B?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Board Member Greg Schneider for the approval of consent agenda item B, 2023-24, Fund 60 Student Activity Group approvals. Second by Brian Anderson. Is there any discussion?
Just wanted to reiterate that if we find if other groups need to be added, that those would be brought back promptly before the board.
Okay, with that, hearing none. Yes.
Just for clarification, so this is for item
B. All right, because we went to C without approving B. So the student activity groups, as they're listed, we're approving the ones that are listed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And then item C, Chromebook bids and recommendations for purchase. Is there a motion for acceptance?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Schneider, seconded by Board Member Nichols. Is there any discussion? All those
I just want to state I'm not able to support it this time until we have clarification around the warranty and what parental expectations would be.
Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, item passes. And we're on to double C.
I just need to abstain because I did not attend.
Okay, is there a motion for the approval of double C? Special board meeting minutes from October 23rd.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Schneider, seconded by Board Member Nichols, to approve the meeting minutes for October 23rd, special board meeting. All those in favor signify by aye, by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay. Motion passes. We're now on to 6A, Communications Report.
Thank you, Board and Dr. Garrison, for the opportunity to share a communications update this evening. When Dr. Garrison joined our district in November, he hit the ground running, and one of the things he was most pressing on his agenda was our communication modes. And so he shared with me that districts have a high and hard lift when they're communicating on their own. So his coaching and mentoring involved getting the community involved with sharing our news in lots of different ways. So I am happy tonight to share the results after a year of our communications channels, where we've grown, what we've reflected on, and where we're at. And I want to thank Melissa Beavers for driving tonight. I'd like to start with the website. That really is the hub where everything is housed. All information that is shared to the community, with our families, with really everyone, is housed on our website and accessible to everyone. We've had close to 700,000 page views on our website this past year since November, and we've had 423,000 plus targeted views. We use that through our social media channels, traditional flow codes, so we're giving direction to individuals to come. Our website is ADA compliant, and that means font sizes, color, look, feel, and it's interactive. The only thing that is not housed on our website is our Blackboard messaging. And those are emergency messages or alerts that we send through our families. Excuse me, I need to get some water. Thank you. I'd like to share a little bit about our social media highlights. Some of the best things, we've posted about 840 posts since last November. We do social media campaigns. That leads to engagement and growth of followers. One that we recently did was the candy corn debate, which actually had close to 35,000 views on it, whether you like candy corn or you don't. Does that share the good news of our district? Well, in some ways, because it gets people to come to our page and share. But we do more serious campaigns. We did a literacy campaign in which individuals in the district, including Dr. Garrison, shared their favorite childhood book, and then we had a giveaway of all those books, which, again, family engagement. We've increased our market share on a monthly basis from 38,000 people viewing and following our posts on Facebook to 54,000. So every month, our posts are falling on 54,000 sets of eyes. We increased our page visits this past year by 200% with 199,000 plus visits. We grew our scope and reach, and I know these are a lot of social media terms, but it really means how many people are interacting, making messages, liking, loving our posts to 651,000. So it's been a successful year on Facebook. We're also on Instagram and LinkedIn. We use those for different platforms. Our podcasts, we actually started in November. We have 2 weekly podcasts. The first one is Monday mornings. It's just news of the week, the most important things you need to know as a community member or family that's happening in our district. We've had 17 episodes, and we do them in Spanish and English. We do more in-depth interviews every Friday. We have 42 episodes that have been uploaded. We have staff, families, and community partners, including the Y, the Boys and Girls Club, Second Harvest, Girls on the Run. We afford that opportunity for our community partners to come in and share all of their good news. You can download our podcasts or listen to them on any streaming device that you listen to podcasts on. We also upload them on our website. We have 1,000 downloads plus, so we're building a good audience. Our blog continues to be very popular. We do share this on LinkedIn, so we have a reach within the business community. Our most recent one was written by Angelina Hernandez, and she wrote about the ambassador program at the high school. We have 51 blogs that have been written thus far. Again, staff, families, community. We made it a special effort this year to use video as a form of messaging. Dr. Garrison typically will do a video to our families, students, or staff or community. Maybe it's an update on the week, maybe it Veterans Day coming up. He might have already done a video sharing that our thankfulness to our veterans in our district. We have a large range of them we do. A most recent one we did was Did You Know videos, and I'll go back to that when I talk about radio advertising. 30-second videos highlighting all the great things in our district that someone may not know. We do work with traditional media, print, radio, and TV. Since November of last year, we've had 160 positive media stories that have been relayed in, print, television, radio. Those start really with Dr. Garrison and I meeting and talking about what kind of stories we can pitch. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. Sometimes TV will pick it up, print won't. One commitment we made, because it's really been really good for us, is our radio advertising. So we started out with a Did You Know campaign, 30-second radio ads that we ran. We have converted them all into videos. So they're up on our website. All that great radio advertising now has been converted to video. And Dr. Garrison and I are the voice of those radio commercials. I know he's heard some comments related to that. Our campaign that we're running right now on radio is the school district of Beloit is the right choice for your family. And then we share why choosing to send your children to the school district of Beloit is a good choice and a right choice. I've listed just a few of the stories. Our most recent television coverage was by WREX. They came down and went to our automotive shop and training center for our students. Very impressed. They said it compares, and maybe not even, to some automotive shops that are at many of our colleges, our two-year colleges. So it was a really great story. We got 3 minutes of airtime. One of the things we've really pushed this year is our SDB app. We're up from the number of people who have downloaded it. We have 12,000 current app users. What I like about it, it's real time. When there's a notification, a message, families receive that alert on their app. They can choose the schools they want to follow or not follow. They can choose the messages they want. We've added our sports schedule to the homepage on our app, many other things that, again, engaging our community in what is happening in our district. Newsletters. Dr. Garrison shares a newsletter twice a month. It's in Spanish and English. We share those via email, text, our app, and our website. So again, those newsletters are accessible to anyone. And our schools support that messaging by doing twice a month newsletters as well. All of our schools have them, and they are also posted on their school's website. So again, looking for community engagement. On the last newsletter, we asked for feedback from our families, which we received, and Dr. Garrison and I were chuckling a little bit. They were all really, really good. We thought, gosh, did somebody have something that they wanted to share that would not be as positive? But I can honestly tell you our families enjoy reading these newsletters and what's going on in the district. I know I'm talking fast, but I don't want to take too much time. We do have public access channel 991. We run programs on that all day long, slides, videos, interviews. So I just put one example up, during National Principal Month. We certainly shared that information, but that runs all the time. We also have in-house carousel. So all televisions within the schools have, on the top of the hour, we're running district news, what's happening in the district. At the bottom of the hour, the school chooses what they want to share, promote with their families. So for example, winter break's coming up. That's one of our slides that we're sharing during our half an hour time in all of our buildings. Again, those are in all the schools and up front when you enter COLAC. One of the things we added this year since November is making sure all our materials have QR codes and flow codes. So for you to know, a QR code, as you know, when you click on it with your camera, will take you somewhere, a website, Facebook, wherever. Our marketing department started using flow codes because there are no secrets anymore in the world. We can tell where people are accessing it from their phone, from their computer, where they are when they're accessing it, what part of the city, in another country. So we use flow codes so we can then track what messages are really being accessed by what market. So that was new this year. And we added the 2 brochure racks in the front of Keck now. So again, when people come in, they can get lots of good information on our district. One of the things we're very committed to, again, is that community engagement. We have a community hub page where all community partners can send to us their flyers, events, information, and we post it. We share that link out. But I think what's really been instrumental this past year is the community engagement we're getting to share all of our news as well. We have a list of about 30 to 40 community partners and business partners who are taking our information, sharing it with their boards, sharing it with their membership, and posting it on their Facebook pages. So that has been a change in this past year. And I'm going to say it publicly, we are so thankful for the Chamber, for the GBDC, Visit Beloit, the Y, Boys and Girls Clubs, Career Tech, all coming forward and helping us build a community of people supporting the work and our students in our district. Lastly is Blackboard. We use that. That's an all-district messaging system. So when we have messaging going out, let's say school closing or an upcoming event, it goes by voice, mail, text, and it's posted on our app. Again, families can get that notification right away on their phone. 98% of our families do receive their information via cell phone. That's why it's so important that all the work that we do in the marketing and communications department, it's mobile friendly. Our website, anything we do really has to be mobile friendly. So, and we have a very good hit rate with cell phone and email. What's in the future? Well, AI is taking over. So our website will be AI functional, and one of the things we're working on is that we will have a URL, so our website will be completely translated into Spanish. So we'll have the English website, but also everything, which we do translate a lot now. We won't need to be doing all that translation. There'll be a website our Spanish-speaking families can go to, tied with ours, but its own URL. So really, it's the website and app that's really, as a district, we're committed to making sure we can house all of our communication and share it out. That was fast, I know. Any questions or any comments that I can help with?
First of all, again, thank you, Ms. Christopher, for putting this presentation together with me. Naturally, when we're thinking about communication, it's an ongoing conversation here in our school district. One of the things that I really want to do for our school district is to make sure that we're communicating our own story. Naturally, there's going to be opportunities for people to, write their own stories about us, but naturally we want to write our own stories about what we are as a school district as well. It's been my hopes that our communication is clear and concise. I know that that is a moving target as well. Naturally, there's millions of ways to communicate, and everyone might have their own way of communicating, but they would prefer to communicate in. And so we've tried to hit on many different aspects
Communication channels.
Communication
right.
channels. We're still trying to find that right one, but we're also, when we do find that right one, we want to make sure that, again, it's clear communication that all can follow. One of the quotes that I kind of was thinking about when it comes to communication is communication leads to community. Real simple, right? Communication leads to community. That is the understanding. That is something that I believe we still need to can grow in here in the school district of Beloit. It's not a conversation that I have shied away from as pertains to communication. I think that we are always trying to develop a community in this communication. If we can land on those two thoughts in a space where all can grow from, I believe we'll be all the better for it. And so again, communication is something that we will continue to work on. It's something that we'll continue to get better at. I will say with the increases that we've been able to experience, and that I should say but that the school district has been able to experience is very important. One of the things I did want to do was I wanted to look at, if you go back to that slide real quick, Missy. One of the things I did want to look at to the first slide. I think it's right there. Go back. Keep going. Keep going back. Back. Right there. No, keep going back. I think it's like the first, not first two slides. Go to the next one. This one. Thank you. One of the things I did want to look at is kind of what we were, how we were communicating, and then of course how we've grown over this past year. This is a very important slide, I think, to note. We've grown a lot of things in our district as it pertains to communication, based off of some of the things that Mrs. Christopher has brought to me as ideas that I brought to her, ideas that we've listened to from the community, ideas that have been shared with me from the administrative team. I mean, a lot of people put a lot of things into this conversation in ways we can better our communication. And I think it's one of the things that it needs to be highlighted here in our district, that we are communicating differently to get our word out, again, as concise as possible. One of the many things that I think we still need to work on is, again, that community engagement conversation. Naturally, I've had one community engagement conversation at this year, and naturally I want to make sure that people continue to have those conversations with me around, just things they want to see here in the district, learn a little bit more about our district, the leadership that I want to bring and move it forward. But also, I want to make sure that our community understands that we are better when we're all communicating effectively. And as this community continues to grow, we need our communication to be, again, as concise as possible. And so, thank you so much, Ms. Christopher, for, again, putting this presentation together. Naturally, we're about to ramp up some more communication as it pertains to our referenda that we will be exploring here in the next few months. And this is a part of making sure people know that there's many different channels that we use, but you got to go on our website, or you got to come to some board meetings, or you may have to even visit my office if you want more information. But again, I do believe we have enough channels where people can actually reach us in the communication conversation.
Board members, questions, comments?
Lots of great work. Thank you.
Yeah, in this area, just like I said, a thank you to Dr. Garrison and the team. To speak for a school district is a large task. The number of the students that we serve, the employees that we have, the number of human interest stories of the things that are happening, and then also just to communicate the work that is being done at the board level and administration to provide for the children the education service that they need so they can reach the goals and aspirations that them and their families have for them. I do like your comment about opening up the conversation to our community because, we are a human enterprise, so there are plenty of experiences and stories that people can tell, but it is important to have the district to speak for itself, our work and the experiences that we're creating for our employees and our students. Like I said, in our community, many challenging narratives, and since we don't have a scoreboard, there's difficult to verify what is and what is not, like I said, unless people are continuously tuned into school board meetings. But like I said, the scores of what is happening with our young people in their athletic contests, their events, their concerts, all these things are happening, and we're thankful. I know as a parent, I do receive information from Fruzen and from the high school that can loop our community in to what is going on in our building. So we're thankful for that effort and to put that positive foot forward for our district. Along with that campaign, as you mentioned, that School District Beloit is a wise choice, a good choice for your student, for your family. So we appreciate that message. Anybody else before we move on? All right, we are at 7A, State Education Convention 2024.
So last year, I believe at this point, I wasn't here when we had this part of the conversation because in about 7 or 8 days, I will make almost a year from me arriving here in the school district. And so, so I think this was a part of the last year's conversations where we kind of walked through who would like to attend this conversation for the state convention in January. And so I don't have any additional thoughts to that, but here's where we would, I guess we would entertain the thought of who could want to participate. Please note that naturally in these conversations, if every board member wants to go, we have to, of course, post that. But in the same token, there's also members here in the school district that will be attending this. And so there's I'm not saying a line item or budget item that we look at, but those are all the factors that we have to consider in this opportunity.
Looking at what I see, I don't know. 4, 6, 7. Any board member that is not included that might be interested, so we can take action on that. And if you register, you register. We just want to make sure that you're included. Okay. I would say add me to the list, and then we'll see here. All right.
Just for note, real quick, one of the things that we can have this conversation individually, if you attend both days or one day, naturally, I would need to know that as well, because of who all could possibly be at the meeting.
Right. So the board, like a posting of if there's 4 or more of us, but we're not considering business. It'd be posted, and then so the board member should reach out to Michelle and make.
Correct. The board members should reach out to Michelle and make appropriate accommodations as necessary. Again, one of the things that we would have to note is if you're going for both days or for one day.
Okay. All right. So leave that. Michelle, do you have deadlines for us? Is that you're trying to get things in before December 15th?
Correct. If, the sooner the better, because then we can do the early bird conference price and save money. And then we just need to know, like, if anybody is specifically planning to do like the WASB breakfast or something that's over and above the conference rate, things like that. If anybody's going to do pre-conference workshops, that's the day before. So typically the conference is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Our rep, who I believe is board member Amy Levy, I think that convention part for the, I'm just drawing a blank now on what those are called. The resolutions that school districts send in, I think that's either on Tuesday or on Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, one of those time slots. So it's important for our rep to attend at that point in time. But if somebody's only going to go, for part of the time, it's good for us to know that, so we know how many are in attendance. But we can definitely post for the fact that more, a quorum may be present at the convention, but no board business will be taking place.
Got you. All right, thank you. We're now on to 8A, future meetings. 8A, future meeting dates.
I'm sorry, point of order. Typically, the board makes a motion per board policy that says who will be attending, or sometimes general, like as many that want to attend can attend, kind of thing, whatever, however you guys want to make that motion. But the board policy says
Got you.
that you guys have to make that motion.
Oh, thank you. Yep. So is there someone to make a motion for a state education convention?
I move to approve as many board members as are interested to attend the 2024 Wisconsin Education Convention in Milwaukee.
Second.
It's been moved by board member Amy Levy, seconded by board member Tia Johnson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We are now on to future board meeting dates. 8A. We have special board meeting negotiations with the BEA on Thursday, November 16th at 6 p.m. Teaching, Learning, Equity, and People Service, Tuesday, November 21st at 5:30 p.m. Human Resource, Tuesday, November 21st at 6:30 PM. Our regularly scheduled board meeting Tuesday, November 21st at 7 PM. And Governance Committee meeting Tuesday, November 28th at 6 PM. We will be going into executive session, and we will adjourn from executive session tonight. And a motion may be made and a vote taken to convene the Board of Education into closed session pursuant to Section 19.85, parentheses 1, parentheses C, relative to considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and Section 19.85, parentheses 1, parentheses E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Greg Schneider, seconded by Board Member Nichols. Mrs. Shope, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Greg Schneider,
Aye.
Amy Levy,
Aye.
Brian Anderson,
Aye.
Brian Nichols,
Aye.
Tia Johnson,
Aye.
and Sean Levy.
Aye.
And I believe Megan Miller is no longer with us. Okay.
I don't think so, no. All right, motion passed unanimously. We're going to closed session and we'll adjourn from closed session. We are done for the evening.